More than 200 people reportedly killed in a single day in Gaza as Israel vows to continue its military offensive against Hamas. Back home, a Sydney vigil for those in Gaza with thousands of candles marking the growing death toll. Also ahead, in flood-ravaged far north Queensland, residents come together to keep their spirits high. And Australian gold medalist Jakara Anthony sweeps her 6th World Cup freestyle win in less than a month. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Stephanie Borys. 201 people have been killed in a single day in Gaza and more than 360 others wounded, according to the Gazan Health Ministry. It comes after a watered-down UN resolution was passed on getting urgent humanitarian aid into the besieged enclave. Israel has vowed to continue expanding operations in the south of Gaza and claims to have almost full operational control of the north. The Israeli government says its military offensive will continue until Hamas agrees to release more hostages.
If you want a ceasefire, that, from Israel's perspective, can only happen with the release of hostages. As you know, Hamas continues to hold over 100 hostages. There's a chance, because they want that ceasefire, they need that ceasefire, they will agree to the hostages. But had we, to be frank, had we agreed to the UN Secretary General's proposal over a month ago for this unilateral ceasefire, we would never have got the 110 hostages out that we did in November.
While Hamas says Israel's military operation is mostly killing women and children.
In Gaza, this is the new normal. Drone strikes in the border town of Rafah, emptying the local market. 17-year-old Joe, filming on his phone, still clutching his bag of shopping and calling on God for protection. America has blocked UN calls for a ceasefire. Israel says it needs to keep fighting to keep up the pressure on Hamas.
If you want a ceasefire, that, from Israel's perspective, can only happen with the release of hostages. As you know, Hamas continues to hold over 100 hostages. There's a chance, because they want that ceasefire, they need that ceasefire, they will agree to the hostages. But had we, to be frank, had we agreed to the UN Secretary General's proposal over a month ago for this unilateral ceasefire, we would never have got the 110 hostages out that we did in November.
Israel's army said this week it had killed tens of Hamas fighters in an ambush near Gaza City, and that it's preparing to expand operations to new areas in the south.
Israel is keen to show it's making progress against Hamas. Its security forces say 700 Palestinian fighters have been taken to Israel for questioning, 200 of them in the past week. But Palestinian groups are still firing rockets into Israel, and there's no sign of the Hamas leaders Israel blames for the 7th of October attacks.
Strikes in Khan Yunis yesterday reportedly killed around 50 people. Gaza's Hamas-run government says most of those killed in the war are women and children. Mass funerals held daily at hospital morgues.
The mask of humanity has fallen. What is going on in the corridors of the UN Security Council is nothing more than theatre and farce, confirming the continued murder and extermination of civilians. This is a genocide.
Israelis were told this war would bring security. To Gazans, it's bringing the opposite.
A drone strike has damaged an Israel-affiliated merchant vessel off India's west coast. It's the first attack outside of the Red Sea since October 7. A British maritime security firm says the attack occurred 200 kilometres southwest of the Indian city of Favarabul. The strike caused a fire on board, but there were no casualties. It comes amid a series of attacks by Iran-backed Houthi rebels on vessels passing through the Red Sea. One of the hostages taken from her home by Hamas on October 7 has called on the Israeli government to do more to facilitate the return of remaining hostages. Sharon Aloni Cuneo was held hostage for 52 days with her twin daughters and husband. She told the crowd of thousands rallying in Tel Aviv that the government must resume negotiations.
The state must do everything to return the people who were abandoned in their homes. In recent weeks, the government has not presented any initiatives of its own, and almost every day news comes from Gaza only about dead bodies. I called to the government cabinet. Emma and Yuli have suffered enough. You broke the contract with them, with my husband David, Ariel, my brother-in-law, and 127 other hostages. I request and demand that your goal and everybody else's goal be that the hostages are returned alive.
In Bethlehem, a Christian clergy has cancelled all major celebrations in light of the war in Gaza. The city usually comes alive in December, but this year the traditional musical festivities, tree lighting ceremony and extravagant decorations have been put away. Instead, many Palestinian Christians held a sombre vigil with candlelit hymns and prayers for peace. Reverend Jack Sara from Bethlehem Bible College says it's a very difficult time for residents of the West Bank.
Considering that Gaza is not even 50 kilometers away from us, with everything happening that is spilling as well into the West Bank, Bethlehem has been struggling. Christmas is the epicenter of the year. I mean, every year, Christmas is the highlight of Bethlehem. Bethlehem is the capital of Christmas. Bethlehem is where Christmas and the first Christmas happened. And now, after all what's going on in our country and specifically in Gaza, Bethlehem has been experiencing, I would say, a mourning Christmas, only time for prayer and wishing for God's mercy over Gaza and our country.
In Sydney, politicians, religious leaders and community members have taken part in a vigil to remember Palestinian victims of the Israel-Gaza war. Volunteers laid out 20,000 candles in the southwest suburb of Bankstown. 286 red candles were set out to represent health workers and 94 blue candles to remember journalists who have been killed. Organisers say the event was a solemn act of remembrance. A crime scene has been set up after a shooting at Canley Vale in Sydney's southwest. Emergency services were called to a Freeman Avenue home around 11 o'clock last night, following reports shots had been fired into the house. No injuries have been reported. In far north Queensland, it's been a week since floodwaters inundated houses in the northern suburbs of Cairns. While it wasn't the Christmas they were expecting, the community is coming together. Reporter Baz Ruddock has the details from Cairns.
It's an understatement to say that floodwaters have dampened people's end-of-year wind-downs here in Cairns, but safe to say that Christmas is not cancelled. It's been 7 days since that massive rain event brought up to 700 millimetres to parts of Cairns, 1.8 metres of rain, rather, to parts of the north. Now, the community spirit on the streets here in Machan's Beach is strong. People have said that they don't even have to find the help comes to them. It's grassroots initiatives, people bringing food, people bringing water, drinks, really making sure that those doing it tough have everything they need. Yesterday, we went to the Machan's Beach Primary School where volunteers were wrapping more than 400 gifts to give to flood-affected families who would then pass them on to the kids and teenagers in their lives to preserve a little bit of Christmas normality in such trying times. We spoke to an absolute local legend, Bronte Wynne. She was one of the chief architects in the whole Present Drive operation. Here's a little bit of what she had to say.
I have a 2-year-old girl, and the thought of giving her Christmas when I know of so many beautiful kids that weren't going to have Christmas, that really, touched me emotionally, and it just made me want to give back.
You know, I think it's just, overwhelming. Helping people and being able to help back, receive help back is so good. And I think everyone should appreciate and feel lucky that at least we didn't, lose anyone.
That was Ria Holland, who was on the giving and receiving end of some charity this week. But many of these people were strangers just a week ago, and now they're really good mates. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they come together. Now, there are thunderstorm warnings in place for the whole east coast of Australia. We saw some of that activity in the southeast corner of Queensland yesterday afternoon, and we may see some of that activity up here in the far north this afternoon.
Residents of New South Wales are being warned to expect possible severe storms this Christmas Eve. The Bureau of Meteorology says storms could roll through Sydney with intermittent rainfall and winds throughout the day. More severe thunderstorms are forecast in northeast New South Wales, with hailstones, flash flooding and damaging winds possible in the northern rivers and northern tablelands. A Russian former television journalist who had announced she'd be challenging President Vladimir Putin in the country's upcoming election has been barred from standing. She had planned to run on a platform advocating an end to the war in Ukraine and the freeing of political prisoners. The move was announced just 3 days after Yekaterina Duntsova applied for registration. The Electoral Commission claims she made mistakes in her application.
You are a young woman. You still have everything ahead of you. Any minus can always be turned into a plus.
The Czech Republic has observed a minute's silence for the 14 people killed during Thursday's mass shooting at a university in Prague. Flags on official buildings were flown at half-mast to mark the National Day of Mourning. 14 people were shot dead earlier this week at Charles University by a student who then killed himself. Police are working to uncover the motive behind the attack. With its bustling gay bars and prominent transgender community, Thailand is a mecca for LGBTQ tourists. But many visitors don't realise that same-sex couples in the country still aren't able to marry. That, though, could soon change, with Parliament considering a bill which would make Thailand the first country in Southeast Asia to legalise same-sex marriage. From Bangkok, correspondent Lauren Day has this special report.
After 35 years, Bangkok's Calypso Cabaret still knows how to draw a crowd.
What is special about this is we have performers with a variety of genders, not only LGBT, but there are even some men who join the show with us as well.
What the audience may not know is that out of the spotlight, these performers are fighting for equal rights.
It's a surprise for them because, as we know, foreigners like to come here because there is freedom, a nice lifestyle and it's easy going, but we still can't have equal rights.
Gina hopes that's about to change as the Parliament considers a landmark bill that would make Thailand the first Southeast Asian nation to legalise same-sex marriage.
I feel excited and I hope it would be a positive outcome, and I believe I might be the first one to get married under the same-sex marriage bill.
And Teacher and Warrawan still have fond memories of their wedding at Bangkok's Pride Festival last year.
We're very excited and very fun because there are a lot of friends.
I'm not the person who easy to cry, but that day I cried a lot.
But the ceremony was symbolic only, and if the couple wants to have children, they need a real marriage certificate. They also worry about not being able to sign medical or legal documents if one of them falls ill.
We just want to live together and we just want to take care of each other, not just only two of us, but our family too.
LGBTQ community has never asked for a privilege. They only ask for an equality.
Dr. Chaiwat runs a health clinic for people in the LGBTQ community.
Same-sex marriage is like the last barrier that we're waiting for. So if the same-sex marriage law has been legalized, so I think Thailand would be the retirement hub for LGBTQ from people from around the world.
The Thai government is also putting forward a bill that would allow transgender people to amend their gender on official documents, something that's not currently allowed, despite the fact that Thailand is a world leader in gender reassignment surgery.
There is still gender discrimination, like you are this gender, you are that gender, but if we have this law, everyone is human.
The Prime Minister is pushing for the laws to be passed and says the government hopes Thailand will host World Pride in 2028. Lauren Day, ABC News, Bangkok.
Across Australia, there are hundreds of unidentified human remains and families that don't know what happened to their loved ones. As police continue to look at these cold cases, hoping one day they'll be solved, a new DNA matching technique is offering potentially game-changing results. Earlier this year, a lab in Canberra helped solve a 40-year-old South Australian cold case and deliver answers to a New South Wales family.
Just through here.
In the Kangaroo Island bush just over 40 years ago, teenager Andrew Bennett made a shocking discovery.
Now that's sort of where it was, just over there.
Okay. Mr Bennett and his friend found a man's body only metres from a main road. It had gone unnoticed for up to 5 years.
It was just skeletal remains with clothing on it, really. Gets a bit thick though.
Now Mr Bennett is taking police back to the scene as part of a fresh investigation into the 1983 missing persons case.
You've come through here, and what else do you remember about that day?
Just in there, and had a bag alongside him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was just laying on the ground?
Yeah, just laying on the ground. We hightailed it out of here and went back to the tennis courts to tell other people, which didn't believe us.
Senior Constable Trevor Snyder from South Australia Police is leading the new investigation. It's one of 15 historical unidentified remains cases he's been looking into since 2020.
Unfortunately, this person, the identification, despite a lot of rumours circulating on Kangaroo Island, was never determined.
There was speculations that it was a teacher or something, but we never really heard anything about it.
After making little progress, Senior Constable Snyder started looking at new DNA investigative methods to offer hope, taking samples for forensic testing in Canberra.
So we essentially wanted to create a one-stop shop of forensic techniques where we could collaborate with the investigators to try and see if we could resolve those cases using the tools available.
Associate Professor Jodie Ward runs the National DNA Program that is working to give names to up to 750 unidentified human remains across Australia.
So here we are, potentially decades later, now applying the newest forensic techniques available.
One of the newest DNA matching techniques is known as Forensic Investigative Genetic Genealogy, or FIG.
It took new advances in DNA matching to finally catch him in 2018.
It's the technique that helped solve the infamous Golden State Killer case in the US.
So at that point, law enforcement agencies all over the world saw the potential of this technology. And, so did we.
FIG involves DNA being analysed and compared to samples on publicly available genealogy websites.
What this technology allows us to do is link to those more distant cousins and then build back their family trees to the present day.
And then, for the first time in Australia, Jodie Ward and her team made a breakthrough.
We saw that we had 2 high-confidence genetic matches.
That then opened up and rejuvenated the investigation.
Through the identification of distant cousins, a common ancestral couple was identified back to the late 1800s. That narrowed the possibilities from millions of people to several hundred descendants of that couple, and most likely one of their many grandsons. Investigators were then told to focus on one family of 11 children. James Hardy lives in New South Wales. His brother had been reported missing after vanishing from Enmore in Sydney in the 1970s.
Yeah, left his wallet and car keys. It was a strange setup, I never got answers.
He heard nothing for 45 years until
2 policemen had come to my front door and told me to inquire and ring up Trevor Snyder.
When he identified that his brother William was missing, was really amazing. It was suddenly this euphoric feeling that we're actually putting all the pieces of the puzzle together.
We had solved a missing persons case.
Further testing confirmed James Hardy to be a sibling match to the DNA taken from the body found on Kangaroo Island. confirming William Hardy as the missing man and solving a 40-year mystery.
I was dumbfounded. I could not believe how they found me. You know, it's incredible.
To achieve this result is outstanding, not only certainly for the police, but also then to be able to provide some answers to the family after such a long period of time is very rewarding.
For police and the family, one key question remains unanswered, and that is just how did William Hardy end up here on Kangaroo Island, so far from home? It's the family's hope now that the composite image of William, along with his identification, will help prompt someone to come forward.
How did he get to Kangaroo Island and how did he die? That's never been answered.
Those answers will allow police to finally close the William Hardy file and reunite him with his family. James Wakelin, ABC News.
Time for sport now with Daniela Intili.
Australian freestyle moguls skier Jakara Anthony has continued her perfect run, claiming back-to-back World Cup gold medals after a victory in the dual moguls event in Georgia. The 2022 Olympic champion won the final with ease against Canada's Maya Schwinghammer to clinch her 6th World Cup medal from 7 starts. The 25-year-old is on track to become the most successful Australian winter sport athlete in a World Cup season. Dual moguls will be added to the Milan 2026 Winter Olympics program alongside the singles freestyle moguls event, of which Anthony is the defending Olympic champion.
Yeah, it was an awesome day out here for Jules. You know, got going in both lines, and to go on the podium with Jalen and Maya. You know, Jalen's renowned for her speed, so to finally get one on her on that and to see Maya get her first podium was awesome to be a part of, and it was heaps of fun out there skiing some runs.
India has the upper hand against Australia heading into the final day of the one-off women's cricket test in Mumbai. Australia is 5 for 233 in its second innings at stumps on day 3, a lead of 46 runs. Australia's vice-captain Talia McGrath was out for 73 and Elise Perry made 45. India's Harmanpreet Kaur took 2 late wickets to halt the tourist momentum, removing McGrath and captain Elisa Healy on 32. Annabelle Sutherland and Ash Gardner are unbeaten on 12 and 7 respectively. Earlier in the day, India posted 406, its highest total against Australia. The Hobart Hurricanes have won their first match of the Big Bash Cricket League season with a 6-wicket victory over the Melbourne Renegades at Bellerive Oval last night. The Renegades batted first and finished at 5 for 183 from their 20 overs. In reply, Hobart hit the winning runs with 6 balls remaining. Matthew Wade top scored for Hobart with 82 runs from 50 balls. Arsenal remains on top of the English Premier League after a 1-1 draw with Liverpool at Anfield. Has moved into the top 4 after beating Everton 2-1, Fulham also 2-0. Bournemouth edged out Nottingham Forest 3-2 and Luton Town overcame Newcastle 1-0. The Brisbane Roar have announced that Ross Aloisi has left his role as the head coach of their A-League men's team. The 50-year-old is heading overseas for another coaching opportunity. He was appointed in May, and after 9 games this season, the Roar sit 5th on the A-League table with 4 wins, 2 draws and 3 losses. Luciano Trani has been announced as the interim coach for the rest of the season. Jamie McLaren has been denied a dramatic late winner as Melbourne City had to settle for a scoreless draw against fierce rivals Melbourne Victory. 2 days after being snubbed for the Socceroos Asian Cup squad, McLaren thought he had given City the lead in the 89th minute, but the City captain's goal was disallowed, the result leaving the Victory in 2nd while City sit in 7th. In the earlier match, Sydney FC defeated Western United 4-2. Joe Lolly scored twice as the Sky Blues snapped a 2-match losing streak. Sydney FC is 10th on the table. NBL ladder leaders Melbourne United have beaten the Perth Wildcats by 6 points in an overtime thriller at John Cain Arena. United won 101 points to 103, with import Ian Clark scoring 25 points, 13 of those in overtime. For Perth, 3-time MVP Bryce Cotton hit 36 points. It was the team's second overtime clash this season. And the Wildcats are in 4th spot, while Tasmania is 2nd after the Jack Jumpers defeated the Illawarra Hawks 100 points to 89 in Wollongong. Jordan Crawford top scored for the Jack Jumpers with 20 points. The Melbourne Boomers have caused a huge upset in Townsville, downing the WNBL leaders by 20 points. The Boomers won 82 points to 62 to end the Fire's 7-game winning streak and a 3-game losing run for the Boomers. Naz Hillman top scored for Melbourne with 22 points and 8 rebounds. The Perth Lynx edged out the Southside Flyers 95 to 85 to clinch 2nd place on the ladder. Amy Atwell starred for Perth with 27 points and 4 rebounds.
Looking across the country, for Queensland, showers and storms in the southeast, mostly sunny and warm in the north, and mostly cloudy in the southwest. To New South Wales and the ACT, showers and storms in the northeast, late showers in the south, and mostly sunny and hot temperatures in the northwest. In Victoria, late showers in the south and northeast, and late thunder in the northwest. Heading to Tasmania, cool to mild temperatures across the state with late showers in the south and northeast. To South Australia now, a late shower in the southeast, mostly sunny and cool in the centre, while it will be windy in the west and north. In Western Australia, mostly sunny and warm in the north, windy and cool to mild in the south. For the Northern Territory, mostly sunny and very warm across the state. And looking ahead to tomorrow's forecast for the capital cities. A possible shower for Brisbane, a possible thunderstorm for Sydney, heavy showers for Canberra, rain for Melbourne, mostly sunny for Hobart, increasing wind and rain for Adelaide, and mostly sunny in Perth and Darwin. And that's the latest from ABC News. I'm Stephanie Borys. Thank you for joining us. We're also going to leave you with these images of baby animals at the Australian Reptile Park celebrating their first Christmas ever.